morning, Turks and Caicos, and all our listeners. Welcome to Disaster 365. I am Joanna Wilson, your Community Preparedness Officer from the Department of Disaster Management and Emergencies. Today we begin a two-segment interview on microinsurance with Dr. Balfour Spence. He is the professor at the Applied Disaster and Emergency Studies Department at Brandon University in Canada. Professor Spence will share on how we can use microinsurance as a strategy for disaster resilience and capacity development in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Just by the title, it's certainly a technical study, but we're going to break it down for you to understand. Dr. Spence, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Let's start with the first terms, disaster resilience and capacity development. Tell us, what does that mean?
Okay, well, in layman's term, let me begin by saying disaster resilience is an extremely complex concept, but let's break it down. It simply speaks to the ability of people to recover, we call it bounce back, from the impact of disasters in the shortest possible time. Now, that is resilience. Now, capacity building, in order to be in a position to bounce back, people need to have the wherewithal, the resources, we call it, to be able to do that. So they must have the capacity. We have to build that capacity that will allow them to bounce back or be resilient.
In the quickest time frame. All right. So we can get into our first question today. What is microinsurance and how is it different from traditional insurance tools?
Okay, microinsurance is an extension of an emergent concept, we might call it, of microfinancing. It's the application of a microfinancing tool to the insurance sector. And it's aimed specifically at people who would not, under normal circumstances, qualify or be able to access traditional insurance risk transfer mechanism. So how is microinsurance then different from the traditional insurance system? Let me begin by saying that traditional insurance, as we know it, is what we call indemnity-based. What that means? Well, you decide that you want to transfer the risk or buy insurance, transfer risk of your house burning down or something to an insurance company. Now, what the insurance company will do is they will assess the risk to which you are exposed, and based on their assessment of that risk, they decide on a price that they will charge you for them to accept that risk on your behalf. So that at the end of the day, if you are indeed impacted, then what the insurance company will do, they'll go back and they'll say, all right, let us assess to what extent you were impacted. And based on the extent of your impact, they will pay out. All right? They will pay out. Now, microinsurance, on the other hand, is not indemnity-based. And most microinsurance are what we call parametric insurance. What I mean here is that instead of your payout or your premium that you pay to cover the risk, it's not based on the risk that you face. In fact, there is no assessment of the risk that you face.
Okay.
None whatsoever. And it's important, and that is why microinsurance can be affordable, because it eliminates the cost of conducting that risk assessment on the front end of you accessing insurance.
Okay.
And in the end, when there's an incident, there's no assessment of the losses that you have incurred. So we save on that end. Then if there is no assessment of risk and no assessment of loss, then how does the system work?
How does it work?
Well, what microinsurance does, it ties your risk to a specific parameter. Let's say the typical arrangement. The agreement you have would be if there's a Category 1 hurricane passing through your area, impacting your country or community, it is agreed that for a premium of $350 per year, say, the insurance company agrees to pay you $6,000 in the event that that Category 1 hurricane passed through. Simple as that. It's transparent. So the basis of your premium is a trigger, which is a Category 1 hurricane. All right? Once that Category 1 hurricane occurs, nobody will come and say, well, what did you lose? And what is the cost of what you lose? No, because the agreement is that based on that trigger, you will be paid a set payout. Now, what that means is that if your losses exceed the payout, you still get the same payout.
Okay.
But if your losses is less than the payout, you still get that payout. The advantage there is that what it encourages us to do is to reduce as much as possible our potential loss, to mitigate, we call it. And because if we mitigate and we keep our loss below the payout, then we stand to benefit, or we can save the difference towards a time when the losses exceed the payout.
So microinsurance is an affordable strategy that brings benefits and a sense of security to low-income families who were previously unable to afford traditional insurance. Dr. Spence, I have some more questions for you on this topic, but that's all the time we have for today. So join us next week, Wednesday at 9:15 a.m. right here on RTC, and we'll continue our session on microinsurance as a strategy for disaster resilience and capacity development in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you.